Welcome to the Intentional Health for Women podcast. I'm your host, Garrett GQ Query. This podcast is dedicated to developing intentional health for women. Former 400-pound fat man turned health and fitness professional, specializing in women's health. In this podcast, you will find over a decade of experience in the health and fitness industry, serving women to become their most intentional self through strength training, nutrition, and lifestyle practices. Each week, we will dive into a variety of different topics, ranging from interviews with women leading the way in the health and fitness industry, client case studies throughout the years, myth busting, social media trends, female hormones, gut health, and so much more. We are not normal. We are intentional. Welcome to another episode of the Intentional Health for Women podcast. I'm your host, Garrett GQ Query, and today we are joined by Laura.
How are we doing?
Good. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So jumping right in, just very warm welcome. Lifelong athlete.
Yes.
Soccer.
Yeah. I started when I was 5. The typical parents trying to figure out where the child fits.
Mm-hmm.
Am I more of an academic or am I the athlete? I was the athlete. And
because you come from a big family.
I do.
I was not aware of this. Big family.
Yes. Not many people really know much about my personal family background.
Yeah. I was aware of a sister or two, but then when I was digging, I'm like, oh, there's a lot of them.
Yeah. So in the bloodline, I'm the oldest of 6. Jesus. My youngest sister was born on my senior prom night. So she will be 24 this year.
Wow.
And then the extended through divorce, there is 8.
Biological, how many again?
6.
Okay. Well,
yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
Wild.
Yep. So, but no, I started playing soccer when I was 5. Parents weren't really sure if it was going to stick because I was playing with flowers in the grass until I scored a goal and I understood what the purpose of the game was. And I excelled. I still dabbled in gymnastics, tried dancing, tap ballet, did taekwondo, and then it ended up being between taekwondo and soccer. They both fell on Wednesday nights at the time, and I was 10 years old, and that's when I had to make the final decision of which route was I going to go. I really enjoyed both, but I think even at a young age, I knew that soccer could take me further. Mm-hmm. And it was just more of a fun team sport. And so I chose soccer and it just went from there. I was on 3 to 4 teams a year from the age of 14 to 21.
That's a whole discussion within itself because I think it's getting even worse now.
Yeah.
I've heard, some of the expectations behind high school sports, and it's something that's been talked about a lot on this show, and it's talked a lot about in the health and fitness space for specifically physique sports. Is so many people aren't aware of hey, you need an off season. There's a reason for this. There's a reason professional athletes don't play sport year round, because you need to have some time off.
And it's the reprieve, just not only physically, but the mental and the emotional aspect as well. And your parents' pocketbook can diminish pretty quickly if they don't have the extra funds on a consistent basis.
Because it gets expensive
fast. With all the travel, especially too.
Yeah. You're also coming up in a month. 8 years of sobriety.
Yep. May 1st will be 8 years. It's wild. It's very surreal every year it arrives. My birthday, we call it in AA, we call it our birthday
Mm-hmm.
because, well, it's a day to celebrate a new life, right?
Mm.
And you are essentially dying, and saying goodbye to your past, and you're entering into an entire new experience. So we get to celebrate that.
Was it a big issue for you?
At the time, I didn't think it was,
Mm.
but I was dared. Essentially, I was dared by a friend to just go alcohol free for 21 days. Just give it a shot, see how I feel. I was in a really dark place. Nobody knew. My mother knew, but it was like a silent knowing, that intuition. And I'll just say it because here we are.
Mm.
I had planned on how I was going to kill myself.
Yeah.
And I hadn't told anyone, but my friend just saw something was missing. There was a darkness kind of hovering over me or within me. And he had been a sponsor to some other friends. One I know specifically that had an addiction to meth. And so he kind of discussed that experience and how he supported him in that journey of sobriety. And so I gave it 21 days. And when 21 days arrived, I realized, well, shit, I could keep going. Why not? I feel good. Let's just see. And I went 8 months cold turkey. And then I found my sponsor at church and did AA, went through the 12 steps in 4 months. And then I started coaching. I taught yoga for a little bit, but I was coaching college club and high school soccer at the time. I realized, well, I can be a whole new person. I don't have to continue to do what I was doing. What's a new path? How do I want to, I don't know, identify in a career? I wasn't really happy with what I was doing previously. And I got to be a kid again. I think that was the coolest thing about coaching. I was coaching kids. And one of the things that they talk about in sobriety is you abandon yourself on the emotional level at the time that you start drinking. So I started drinking when I was 12. So you abandon yourself, but you also stunt your growth. And I realized there was a huge part of me that never really got to be a kid. So I was relearning how to be childlike through my players while I was also teaching them the game that I loved. And I also got to mentor them through my mistakes that I'd made because most of them were all high school, college girls. And I was seeing paths that they were starting to go down that weren't healthy, that I had already experienced and gone down. And the exposure of social media and porn and the pressures of sex and drinking and partying, and it was all there in their lives, in the school systems. And they were having to make really hard decisions of, do I want to lose my virginity to one man or do I want to have a threesome? And I was sitting down talking to these girls about the negative impact it would have if they chose certain paths or made certain decisions to, give away their body in a certain way. So that was a gift in itself, and it really helped me to grow on an emotional and mental level, and heal because I saw me in them.
I was recently, I don't even want to say reminded, enlightened to the fact that, like, if you look at the current data available, the average age of marriage in America now is 38 years
At for their first marriage?
old. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I mean, I get that makes sense to a degree. A lot of people are afraid of the risk of committing or they've already experienced it in childhood.
I don't necessarily disagree with like afraid so much as is like, even while I was like listening to you talk, it's like, hands down, I was robbed of my childhood. My parents divorced when I was 10, both of them remarried, the whole gamut. And 2 years later, my mom became essentially, to shorten the story, is terminally ill and died 4 years later.
Terminally ill of what?
She had gastric bypass, had complications of the surgery, and essentially at 14 years old, her body stopped producing the chemical that makes you want to eat. So at 14 years old, my mom literally looked, in a matter of 6 months' time, looked like she walked out of Auschwitz, like at my confirmation.
So she was starving.
Her body stopped producing the chemical that makes you want to eat. Her body catabolized 70% of the muscle tissue in her left leg. And she was never the same.
No. And
4 years later, as she was finally becoming the woman that we knew as mom, she had ended up back in the hospital with some complications, and a piece of plaque broke loose and she stroked out at 36. And so, yeah, I didn't really get the childhood, right? And then like to like unfold on that is we're living in a massive transition as far as generation of like, people are making wiser choices as far as like waiting to get married because they want to do it once. Mm-hmm. They want to do it right. And I think what's going to happen in the next 50, 60, 70 years is we are going to see a generation of children raised by people who made quality choices. Mm-hmm. We are going to see a generation again where it's like parents are married for 20, 30, 40, 50 years until they're dead.
Yeah.
And actually have the emotional capacity to give a child a childhood.
Yeah. And to understand and support the child in their growth with whatever hardships come along in their life as they're exposed to reality. I'm sure you've experienced it as well, like through divorce. There is that transition where the child does become a parent to some degree. And that was something I had to do very early. I mean, I was cooking dinners at 12 years old and making sure my siblings had their homework done and laundry was done. And I didn't understand why I had to do that. I was very angry, which I think that's why, well, I know that's why I started drinking and smoking cigarettes and failing and partying with the upperclassmen and doing all the things. But looking back on it at the same time, I did grow from it. I understand why I was put in that position, but I also forgave my parents because I've put myself in their shoes and tried to empathize of how would I have handled that situation? Who would I have leaned on if I had no one else other than my children? And the stresses that they had to go through just to be able to survive, to put food on the table and keep a roof over our head. I don't think I would have done it different if I was them.
Yeah.
So
I think that's super crucial for all adults. We have to recognize our parents' circumstances and just realize like, hey, they're not, as children, we look at our parents and we're like, oh, they're superhuman. And they're not. No one is.
Yeah. They're not on the pedestal that we put them on.
No. And they don't know, and they sure as shit don't know everything that we think they do. They should have known. Well, no.
Yeah. Because they're learning too. I mean, I was I was a surprise and I was practice. And they were learning with me. By their fourth and sixth, they had it dialed down.
Yeah.
I mean, I had it dialed down. I didn't have to give birth, but yeah, I understood the process.
Right.
So, yeah. But no, I think when a child does have to grow up young, there is, like you said, that sense of loss, and there's a rebellion that comes with it.
Yeah. It's something that's been really interesting as of late is there was a season of my life for almost a decade where everyone thought I was older than I was. Everyone thought I was older than I was, and everyone always said how mature I was for my age.
Yes. Old soul.
And for a long time, like, you know, I took that as like a compliment. And then all of a sudden, what was really weird was around 27 was when everybody started being like, oh yeah, you're 27. And I was like,
but I'm old.
What?
Yeah.
I was so like confused. I was like, wait a minute. Like I've always been confused as like 2, 3, 4 years older.
Would you say you've never, because of the compliments that you were given based off of your life experiences, you never identified with the age that you were?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, same. Like, I know I'll be 41 this summer, but I feel 25. And a lot of the time I act like I'm 18 or 16. And a lot of people always think I'm in my 20s.
Yeah.
So
I would have never guessed.
41.
No,
Yeah.
not a million years.
Yeah. It's all the water I drink. All this hard Arizona desert water.
Does the soul good.
Yeah. Yeah. But
what would you say is like one of the biggest things 8 years of sobriety has taught you?
That the hardest things are usually the loneliest times. Like, how do I put this in words? Sobriety is a very, very hard decision and a hard journey. And it's a fucking lonely one. Because when you decide that getting sober is better than getting drunk or getting high or just literally testing life's limits to where you're not sure how you're still alive, like when that becomes exhausting and sobriety is your only choice, it's scary, but it showed me that no matter what, I am very capable of change. I am able to pivot. And there's always light on the other side. And I know that no matter what, God's got me.
Yeah.
I know that for every day I wake up, there's a reason. Even if I am doing nothing other than sitting on the couch watching TV or sometimes scrolling and sending memes to my friends like a crazy person because everything I find is funny or I just want to laugh. There's a purpose to that. Maybe it's not fulfilling my day, but maybe I'm fulfilling someone else just by reaching out. Or maybe it's my soul resting, because how often do I really get to rest? But yeah.
And by no means will I state that I'm sober, but like, I've done 75 hard a handful of times. I grew up in Fargo, North Dakota, Moorhead, Minnesota. And if you know anything about that area, it's blackout or back out. Like it is a way of life. At about 23, I was like, I sat back and I was like, do I have a problem? Because I come from a long line of alcoholics.
Okay. What was your drink?
My dad has never, ever been drunk, ever. Ever, ever.
Did he ever drink?
He does.
Okay,
Like,
but he's
and
never.
by he does, I mean like once every 3 years, maybe 5 years at this point.
Okay.
And by like a drink, I mean like he has 2 daiquiris because he's a Sally, or he'll have a sip of my beer, make funny faces at me, and be like, "This is disgusting. This is why I don't do this."
Yep.
Um,
My mom does the same thing. She'll have a sip, she'll giggle, sneeze, and then she passes out.
yeah. I mean, like I said, I was a craft cocktail bartender. Like, I genuinely enjoy the craft of bartending. I genuinely enjoy the craft of craft cocktails.
Mhm.
And I still enjoy them from time to time. But something that I've actually recently kind of come to the realization of is like, I think as I'm dating and working to find my wife, like, I've come to the realization that like being sober, especially as a male, is very challenging in dating, because women, like, we can use an analogy, not necessarily alcohol, but like as a spouse, I think we've all experienced this. Your wife or woman comes up to you and she's like, "Hey, I want ice cream." Well, then you want ice cream.
Mhm.
And there's really just not a choice in that matter. I mean, obviously there is.
Yeah.
I could choose to be sober. But it makes dating difficult. It makes it challenging. But like, it's just not even worth it anymore. Like, it's like having, even as a, depending on the season, like on average, 230-pound man, like 1 to 2 drinks, like I don't even feel it,
Mhm.
but I feel the repercussions the next day.
Yep. I mean, it's a great carb replacement after a workout.
Ah.
But the struggles that you're experiencing in dating, I've experienced as well, where, I mean, I even had an ex, and I've had other individuals that I've attempted to date that said, I can't date you because you don't drink.
Yeah.
Or it would be more fun for a relationship if you did drink. Or have you considered, like, maybe you're in a different phase of your life to where you could have one?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a thought that's crossed my mind.
Sure.
But the question I always say to myself, if I can't answer this, then it's a no. But what would the purpose of the last 8 years have been if I had a drink today?
Mm.
And maybe it's a trick question I have on myself to prevent me from drinking.
Yeah.
Maybe there's an answer, but I've never had an answer to that question. So,
Until you do.
yeah. And maybe if I do have an answer, it's just to confirm why I should continue to not drink. So, yeah.
Wrapping up sobriety, soccer, D1,
Yeah.
intense training, competition, teamwork. Was there specific goals? Like, did you want to play outside of college after the fact?
I wanted to play pro. That was the goal.
Yeah.
I didn't go to college to go to school.
Mm-hmm.
I went to college to play soccer.
Mm.
And there was a lot of sacrifices that came with that. I'd failed out my freshman year in high school because, like I said, I was partying with all the seniors.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Had to go to summer school. My stepdad raised me, and he presented options. He was a lawyer litigator, so he was very good at that.
Oh, okay.
But he presented it in a way to where, even though it was his choice, it made me feel like it was mine.
Any good lawyer would.
Correct. So there was a private school, St. Andrews, right across the street. I went to Barrington High in Rhode Island. So I'm a New Englander. So I understand those winters, hence the drinking as well.
Go Red Sox.
Right. Celtics play tonight. But
I'm only a Red Sox fan. Steelers, Red Sox. I really don't have a hockey or basketball team.
All
I
right,
could care less.
That's fair. But yeah, he said you could go back to school with your friends, play varsity, continue to be
a delinquent.
Yep.
Yeah.
And really, really apply yourself and still maybe not pass. Or you can go do the tour that I set up for you next week. and see if it's an option, but maybe you'll get the help that you need to get your grades up, and that would allow you to get the full ride to a D1 school you say you want so bad. So, I pouted a little bit, but I said, all right, fine, Dad, I'll go and I'll do the tour. And I showed up, and this girl, Vicky Posner, was my tour guide. She's still one of my best friends to this day. And she's the reason why I chose St. Andrews. And she was like that light to show me that this is the right choice. And something else just about the tour itself, the grounds, it just hit home. It felt right. And I decided right then on that day, I was like, all right, let's do it. And that was really hard on my parents financially.
Yeah.
Because they were then having to pay college tuition for 3 years before I went to college, just for me.
Yeah.
But I did it. The soccer team, they had never won a game in the history of the school. They had maybe scored a couple of goals, and we had chapel every morning at 8 a.m. And so they would ring the bell when the girls just scored a goal. I'd come along, and I helped coach the coaches coach us. I helped coach the girls. And by my senior year, we won the division.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. And I was captain, a couple MVP awards, whatever. It was fun. I can humbly gloat now. It's been long enough. But in my GPA, I got it back. I got it up to about a 3.2 or 3.3 from a 1.8. Yeah. And my graduating class was 36 people.
Nice.
So from there, I went to college, repeated the same thing freshman year in college as I did in high school. I had way more freedom. I did stay in state at the University of Rhode Island. It was the one college that I didn't screw up the official visit. I had partied on all of my other official visits to try to fit in with the girls that were already on the team, not knowing that was my test, right? So it was between the University of Rhode Island and Lynn University in Boca Raton, Florida. And, it's kind of like in the NFL movies that you see. And I had the phone in one hand and my dad had the phone in the other. And we were going back and forth, bartering between who's going to give me what. And the extra perk for Rhode Island was we were going to Europe for preseason. We did a 2-week tour, 4 countries, 6 games.
Cool.
I started as a freshman. We made the NCAA tournament my freshman year. And that was it. Yeah. But the women's league folded. I graduated college in 2006. The women's league folded in 2007, 2008. I had actually finally got a tryout or an invitation through one of my friends who was already on the team, and one of my old coaches was goalie coach. So they said, you can come and, try out, and if I make it, I make it.
Yeah.
But the women's league folded, and then life just took me in other directions.
Elsewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was it? 18 months ago? Life changed in a blink of an eye.
September 16th, 2023.
Yep.
I was blindsided and T-boned on my driver's side going through an intersection. I had the right of way. I walked away without a scratch. I suffered a traumatic brain injury. And I did do therapy very intensely because I did have a near-death experience. Which is wild to say I had a near-death experience while still being able to walk away without a scratch. So my airbags didn't deploy. I was in a Nissan Rogue Sport, 5 inches from being killed. But when I got hit, I had a watch, all of my jewelry, sunglasses, everything it all flew onto the passenger floor. I got hit that hard. And I hit the window divider from the windshield to the front door. Right here, dented my skull. And I remember right before I got hit, my body just shut down. Nothing had happened, but my body just, protective mode, just went black. And then I remember hitting my head so hard in that darkness that I thought I split my skull open. And that hit knocked me back into consciousness while still being unconscious. I didn't see any bright lights, but my voice spoke to me in what was like a black hole. There was just nothing. And I believe it was God speaking to me in my voice. And all it said was, if you see blood, you may die. So I finally came to, and I immediately reached for my head, and I started touching my scalp, literally just like this. I mean, I remember the exact pattern, the touch, all of it. And I looked down at my hands, and my vision was still really blurry. I thought I saw red at first, and then it all cleared up, and there was no blood.
Yeah.
So I realized I was smelling smoke. It was just burnt rubber from the tires because I got pushed about 6 or 10 feet and tried to get out of the driver's side. And it took about 5 minutes to understand, too, that I couldn't get out because there was a truck blocking me because that's what I just got hit by.
Yeah.
So I crawled out the passenger side and I called 911 in the middle of the intersection. This girl came running to me asking if I was okay. And then I walked over to the driver's side of the truck and he rolled down his window maybe 5 inches. And all I said was, why the fuck did you do that? Why did you do that? And his only response was, I'm so glad my kids weren't in the car. And then he rolled the window back up. And he wouldn't get out of the car. And the police officer came over as I was standing there and he asked the driver to get out 3 times. And he wouldn't. And so he opened the door the 4th. And he got out. Don't know if he was drinking. Don't know if he was texting and driving. Never found out. He wouldn't talk to me. I mean, I understand why. But yeah, it was just like, wow, you really had no remorse for what you did. You were more concerned about yourself when you literally could have killed me. And that was it. That was the last time I talked to him. Went to the hospital about 2 hours after. The firemen did all the tests and everything. The adrenaline and the shock had protected me, but it got to a point where all of a sudden I couldn't breathe. My chest got so tight and my body was just settling down. One of my girlfriends, I mean, 2 of my brother-in-laws are firefighters, but I was talking with one of my girlfriends and her boyfriend's a captain for Phoenix Fire. And the first thing he said was, you need to go to the hospital immediately because the hit that you just experienced, you need to make sure your heart didn't tear. So I did. And everything was good. My neck is jacked. It's like a broomstick. No curve. It's gone. All of my ribs were subluxed. My eardrum was bruised. I thought it had actually fallen out of my ear, which is impossible, but I thought that. Because I couldn't hear for a while. And then I had the brain injury.
Did your insurance ever go after this guy and get...
Yep. I got a lawyer. We settled it. Everything was done. It took about 9 months to get it all done.
And did they ever confirm? Did the PD ever like breathalyze the guy or anything?
I didn't really. The part of me, and this is maybe the empathic side of me, but I already knew how much of a struggle it was going to be for me just to survive this. And I already knew how hard financially it was going to hit him, assuming, he wasn't a millionaire or something.
Mhm.
So what I told the lawyer was, I want him to experience the consequence of his actions, but I don't want it to hurt him and his family. I'm alive.
Yeah.
So whatever due diligence you need to do it, but don't take him down. I need to learn. I got to forgive him. I need to heal.
Mm.
I'll figure out the position I have now been put in because I couldn't work. I had no income for 4 months. My friends actually paid all of my bills. My stepdad did step in once, but I had burned some bridges with family prior to sobriety.
Sure.
So I, understood, but I guess sometimes you think when the acute things happen that they would be there. But when you look back and you realize how much you took advantage of the help that they did give, it was a very valuable lesson.
Yeah.
So it was another rock bottom that I hit, but I fucking got out of it.
Yeah.
And
I think there's, I'll let you finish that, but I just think that there's something to point out, just like that you said that statement that's so interesting to me is like, people are so worried about what other people think.
Mm-hmm.
And that statement of like what you said about what he said, people don't realize how much people, especially men in our society and culture today, and the current financial situation that a lot of people are in, how numb we really are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like when I hear what he said, how numb do you have to be?
Yeah. Very selfish. Very.
I almost got, I've ridden motorcycle, and I've spent probably half my motorcycle riding career actually here in Arizona. I almost got smoked by a guy who went into the turning lane and then just like cut right back out. Caught up to him, kind of confronted him the best you can on a motorcycle in a car, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the same thing. Like as soon as you said what you said, it was the same thought. It's like, how numb. And the guy literally just looked at me like cold and numb and shrugged his shoulders.
Yeah. Well, and talking about it now, you got to think too, what is going on in their life? Was he going through a divorce? Was he, did he drop his kids off in time? Like, what were the family dynamics? What would have happened if the kids were in the car? How would that have affected the children? I mean, there's so many repercussions to just one action. Or what if they were in the car? What if it was because he was drinking? Like, he wasn't going into the sunlight. It was a Saturday night ASU game. Who knows? Was he coming from that, left early, got weight? Like, we don't know. I'll never know. And that's okay. But I really factored in my sincerity towards him with just life being life. And maybe he was numb because he was terrified of what could have happened to him if what he really was doing was brought to light.
Do you feel like your sobriety helped you navigate this situation?
Yeah. Yeah. And every hard situation that I've been in life has just made me bounce back faster.
Yeah.
It's almost expected now. Like, I mean, what God gives your hardest trials to their toughest warriors, if I'm saying that correctly.
I just think it's a testament too of like sobriety, of like there's so many other tools that we can use to numb. It just begs the question is like, what are you running from? And like when you're sober, don't get me wrong, like again, there's a lot of other tools to numb.
Yeah.
But when you're sober, it takes a big one away, because like you can just sit there and you can run away for 50 years.
Part of me is it's still been running.
Yeah.
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 No. Yeah. It's
Yep.
running is easy,
Mm-hmm.
but running comes with a lot of consequence.
Did you have to use pain medication? And was that a difficult
I refused
choice?
it.
Yeah.
I refused it. I didn't take anything. And the doctors were pushing it. But I said no, because if I have a brain injury and anything else is happening that you may have missed, because no doctor is perfect, that's why they call it practicing medicine. I want to be able to be aware and know how my body is changing or being altered on its own. And I think that actually surprised the doc, to be honest. My parents were like, no, you need something. I go, I'll take Tylenol. It's fine.
Yeah.
And what's very comical is so many serendipitous moments in my life as well. But my mom stayed with me that night. We didn't go to bed till about 2 a.m. because she was afraid. She was terrified for me to go to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
So we put on the show Ted Lasso. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the episode where the therapist gets hit by a car riding her bicycle. Oh, yeah. Totally ironic. And me, I'm like, oh my God, Mom, look, did you see that? It like connects to my accident. This is so wild. And she's like, all right, chill the fuck out. Like, just relax. But the next morning I woke up at 5 a.m. and I just told her, okay, I want breakfast. We're going to go to Egg Sissy for breakfast when it opens.
Mm-hmm.
And I hit the ground running. And I was afraid to stop. I was afraid that if I stopped and I allowed the accident to define me, I would never get out of the accident.
Yep.
And I actually witnessed a hit and run at breakfast on the patio.
Jesus.
And I met a lawyer on the patio. Ended up not being the lawyer I chose, but it was just like all of a sudden, all of these little synchronicities started connecting and just led me on my way.
Yeah.
And here I am.
How did the experience change your perspective on life and your body?
We are on borrowed time. I mean, genuinely, we are alone to this earth. Anything can happen in a blink of an eye, and it really is a blink. What that song, Kenny Chesney, right? Just Blink. Is it Kenny Chesney?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I don't think many people in this world really, truly understand what that means, the depth of it. Until you experience something where you realize you could have lost your life, or you are watching somebody in your life fight to live, people take this life for granted.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I had said to you earlier today that, man, God is really testing me this week. We lost a fingernail today. Don't drink a daily detox before the gym. Still got it all done. AC went out yesterday. Got a swamp cooler. Monday, my dad calls. 3 of my family members. Grandma's in the hospital, faulty valve, congestive heart failure. My uncle in West Virginia, cancer is back, a couple tumors in his bones. My other uncle, lung biopsy, stage 2. The week before that, my really good friend diagnosed stage 4 lung cancer. And my aunt and my uncle here are both fighting with intense intestinal issues is the best way I can explain it because I don't know the depths of it.
Yeah.
So 6 people in my life in the last, 4 specifically in the last 2 weeks, and 2 in the last couple months are fighting for their life. And they don't know what the outcome is going to be. Even if the percentages are high for survival, there's still a fucking fight that they have to go through.
Mm-hmm.
And that's given me a whole other perspective on life, not just from my own personal experience, but that victim mindset, that self-doubt or imposter syndrome, like all the ways that your mind can trick you. It just made me sit back, reevaluate more. What am I doing right? What am I not doing right? What could I be doing more of? And what am I just not doing? With the realization too, of if they can fight for their life, I can pivot more again and not be afraid.
Yeah.
I can wake up at 5 a.m. and get my routine down.
Mm-hmm.
I can commit to a goal to compete in my first bodybuilding show.
Mm-hmm.
I can.
Yeah.
And I will
Mm-hmm.
until I have my last breath.
Yeah. As if recovering from a near-death experience wasn't enough.
No.
Mold.
Yeah.
So September 16th, 2023.
Mm-hmm. Mold. Gosh. Honestly, I was living in it during the accident. I went to working from home. So I was always in it. Didn't know. Got RSV. Started getting yeast infections. Got BV. At first, I blamed it on a partner I had for a brief moment. And it wasn't him. It was the mold. I was getting 3 to 4 yeast infections a month. Was going to the gynecologist monthly. We were trying to figure it out, blood tests, all the things, but they're not testing for mold. They're testing, hormones or pH levels, the basics. And finally, my doc just said, I'm not giving you another prescription. Like, we're killing your gut.
Yeah.
And
kudos to them. Thank God for that.
Yeah. I had already taken about 6 rounds.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Ouch.
Yep. I was still trying to figure out what's the best probiotic, prebiotic. I work for a homeopathy company, so I started doing the Candida cleanse, and I switched my entire diet to strictly protein, very limited on fruits, took out all sugar, all carbs, like breads, processed foods.
Yep.
Whatever else. I kept a journal for 3 months every day. I'd start seeing a clear up, and then I'd have another flare up. I'd have more flare ups around my cycle. And then I thought I was having allergies, and it started in late July, August. And I'm like, it's 120 degrees out. How am I having allergies right now?
Yeah.
None. But then I figured, well, when I'm outside, I'm fine. When I'm inside, that's when I'm starting to have the congestion or the sneezing. And I have a dog. He's 11. And his pH, his skin, it changes. And he has allergies and dandruff. And I had a cloth couch. And I was just troubleshooting. Well, maybe I'm allergic to my dog now. Your body changes. And got new couches. I got new bedding. I was switching. I got the vents cleaned.
Yeah.
Everything. And then one day it just clicked. Like, where have I not looked? The washer and dryer. It was a stackable unit, had never been moved. I had initially moved into a remodeled apartment. They were supposed to have also done the flooring as well. They didn't. They said they were short on lumber. So they left the flooring as it was. Maybe if they had redone the floor, they would have caught something. but I moved that stackable washer and dryer. And the circumference of the washer dryer was the circumference of white crystallized mold. Got an air test the next day, and it came back positive 100% for black penicillium airborne mold. Yeah.
Winning.
The apartment, I will keep it nameless because I am, taking more legal steps to see what my options are or if it's worth it. But they denied all responsibility. They said that their tests did not match mine. But prior to that, they had maintenance go in, clean it, and say it was just dried up laundry detergent.
Thanks.
So when I got my results, I gave them the results immediately. And I said, look, I appreciate your efforts, but we have a bigger issue. I've already taken all the proper steps. I've communicated with you effectively. I've let you know that my health has been a concern. I'm out. So December 12th, I was dog sitting for a friend, and I ended up staying with him for almost 4 weeks through the holidays, living out of a backpack in his guest room until I found a new apartment. And broke the lease. They allowed it. They're still trying to get me to pay the $300 that basically represents the time that I was there for the month of December. But they didn't follow any of the letter of the law. They didn't compensate me. They didn't give me a per diem, nothing.
Yeah.
Everything came out of my pocket, and I went through my savings.
When did you realize something more that was going on than just like lingering effects of your accident?
When it was still happening in airplanes and when I went to Rhode Island and in Austin. When I flew to Austin, that's when it was really bad. And I went through an entire toilet paper roll just to blow my nose to be able to breathe in a 2-hour flight. And a friend had, again, serendipitously been on the same flight. We sat together and she was a witness to it.
Yeah.
When I got back from Austin, that's when I was waking up, as soon as I'd wake up, my nose would just shut just from the inflammation. But then I would have all this clear fluid mucus come out, but it was clear. And then I noticed my feet. They were starting to kind of turn black on the bottom, and I got a yeast infection on my big toenail. Shouldn't have done that. But that was a big signal too. And and also my workouts. I mean, you used to see me at the gym all the time. I stopped going. I was exhausted.
Yeah.
I could barely get out of bed, and then I'd have to take a 3-hour nap, and then I would still be in bed by like 8:30. So I was just tired all the time. I had no energy, just losing weight all over the place.
During that situation, did you ever contemplate your sobriety?
Yeah. Yeah, I felt like I was going crazy. I was like, well, I could just have a drink. My mom would be like, why would you do that, Laura? Well, it would make me feel better right now. Okay, well, maybe for a second, but you have a lot of other issues going on. How is alcohol going to make you feel better?
Could you imagine just pouring a bunch of alcohol on top of your liver while it's trying to manage mold? You would have felt awful.
I mean, who knows what would have happened?
Oh.
But yeah, it's been an experience. I'm much better now. I'm grateful the yeast infections have gone away. That was so horrible. I mean, even food sensitivities would trigger it. I started having food sensitivities. So it was wild.
What were what would you say was the most challenging experiences? Was it like yeast infections, the brain fog, the fatigue? Does anyone's kind of stand out?
I think when you lump it all together, the health factors were very difficult. because I didn't have a root cause, like a known root cause yet.
Yeah.
But then I think once I had the root cause, it was really hard for anyone to understand unless they had gone through it. And once again, I had another unseen, invisible injury.
Yep.
And those are the hardest for people to believe, that anything's actually wrong with you. Brain injury, unseen. Mold, unseen. To the naked eye, it doesn't exist. To people, well, Laura, you look fine. You look great. Well, that's wonderful. I'm glad you see that on my shell. But on the inside, I feel like I'm dying. I feel like I'm going crazy, and I don't know who can help me, because everyone that I do know that is helping me, it's not working.
I've shared this a few times. I have a good friend out here, colleague, used to work with my coach, and he's married and now has a baby girl and owns his own business as well. So you can about imagine how often we get together.
Yep.
It's not very often.
Yep.
We got together a handful of months ago, and he just looks at me, and similar to you, right? Like, I had the testosterone of a 79-year-old man by the time I was 29 years old, and I went 8 years undiagnosed hypothyroid. So both, like you said, invisible.
Yeah.
Garrett, you seem fine. Garrett, you look healthy.
Yeah.
Garrett, blah. You know what I mean? Like,
unless they go through an experience.
And he goes, themselves. Why didn't you say something? It's like, what do you say?
Would you believe me? Yeah.
Because especially amongst men, it's a good old slap on the ass, and cool, we're all suffering from the same thing. Buck up.
Yeah. Go get some test shots or whatever. Easy fix.
Yeah.
Patch it up.
What type of treatments did you pursue, and what actually did end up, you kind of alluded to it just now, but to dive deeper, like what did you try, and what has kind of ended up getting to the root cause of your issue?
So,
or not root cause, the root cause.
Yeah.
What is
once I found out the root? Well, while I was living in the apartment, my homeopathy company, Des Bio, that I work for, it's all functional alternative medicine, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we have our comprehensive detox drops and Omni Cleanse. So it helps with like the intestinal gut rebalancing of the microbiome. And then it helps to open the pathways to detox all of your main organs: brain, liver, kidneys, even your heart, like all the things. So I was just doing that and changed up my entire diet. But once I moved out of the apartment, I just stopped everything, because I just felt like my body just needed to breathe and take a break and reset, have a new baseline, see how I was going to do in the apartment. I wanted to see how was my body going to react without anything once I was removed from the toxic environment. And I mean, pretty immediate. My body was bouncing back. I was still having issues with drainage, obviously, but I just went back to having a clean diet and took Clariv probiotic. My aunt actually got me an intimate soap cleanser called Nakery, Nakery. Works amazing. So that also helps balance the pH as well on the outside. So once I started using that as well, the yeast infection started going away.
Yeah.
I haven't had one in 3 months now. And now on Monday, this week, I actually started the detox drops again. And I have been working with one of the doctors on staff with my company. So she's in the process of writing up the protocol for me to take. So yeah, I don't know what that's going to entail yet, but she said it will be about a year process and it's going to be very hard.
Yep.
But I'll feel like a brand new person and probably someone I don't even recognize. And it may end up being the very person I've always envisioned. And yeah, so I'm ready. But it did take me a couple months before I reached out to her and said that I was ready because I needed to know that I was going to do this effectively, consistently, and with discipline.
Any advice to someone who suspects they might have mold exposure?
Yeah, get tested. Get the air test. Look under all of your appliances, your microwave filter, the bathroom, all water sources. If you see bubbling or spots in any of your paint, on the ceilings, fireplaces, I mean, just start looking. But if you're really certain that it could be, if you're not, you just want to do maintenance, preventative care, I would just get an air quality test, once or twice a year just to verify. The air test is the most significant one, I think. You can just do it all around the house, and
you can always get a
mycotoxin test too,
yeah.
urine test.
Yep.
Yeah, I still haven't done that yet just because the cost of the one that I need to do is pretty expensive. So they range between $250 to $1,000. So it's not covered by insurance from what I understand. So yeah. And it takes about 14 days for results to come back. You pee in a cup, mail it out, and yeah.
Biggest lesson you've learned from nearly dying, mold exposure?
Just keep going. Yeah. Life is going to hit you no matter what you do. So if you can just understand that you don't have control, and if you know that you can always keep taking the next step, you're always going to come out on the other side.
Absolutely. Everyone gets asked this question.
Okay.
It's the Intentional Health for Women podcast. How are you going to live intentionally as you step into this next season of life?
That's a good question. The biggest thing I would say for myself to live intentionally is to stop people pleasing and trying to make everyone else happy through living my life, and just live my life for me. Be of service in any way that I can, even if it's just a listening ear. Show up when I say I'm going to show up, even when I misread an email. And you caught that. And just keep doing the work to just be the best person that I can be. I know it goes deeper, and there's so many other layers that I can't put into words. But I think the biggest thing to live intentionally is to show up for myself so I can be of service to others, and whatever that looks like.
Yeah.
Because I know what it's like to be alone, and I know what it's like to not have that support system. And I don't want people to feel the pain that I've felt in my life. So by being a better me, I can hopefully remove that pain for others just by showing up.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. This was awesome. Great questions.
If this episode brought you value, please subscribe, share with a friend, and leave us a review. We are not normal. We are intentional.